Okay, so you've probably seen this one floating around. Donald Trump wants his portrait taken out of the Colorado State Capitol.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got the AP report right here that
Yeah.
really goes into detail about his social media demand and all the flurry of reactions around this.
Okay.
So what makes this more than just a grumpy politician who just dislikes a painting,
Yeah.
We're going to find out in this deep dive.
I think this is fascinating. State Capitol portrait ignites all this discussion.
Right.
Ego and artistic intent
Mm.
and how we as the public perceive these representations of people.
Yeah, for sure. So Trump posted on Truth Social, and he says, he's heard complaints, quote unquote,
Yeah.
about the portrait and thinks that it's, quote unquote, purposefully distorted.
Right.
And that he would prefer no picture at all.
Wow.
So why this really strong reaction now, years after this thing has been unveiled?
Yeah, and the article reminds us this oil painting was commissioned back in 2019
Right.
by Colorado Republicans through a GoFundMe. They raised over $10,000 for this thing.
Really?
So this wasn't some random act. This had like a specific partisan origin.
And here's a key detail. The artist Sarah Boardman, she also painted Barack Obama's official portrait there.
Oh, interesting.
Trump actually praised Obama's portrait. He called it wonderful.
Okay.
But then he said Boardman, quote unquote, lost her talent by the time she painted him.
Oh, my gosh.
That contrast, it speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It totally does. I mean,
Right.
it suggests that his issue isn't just about like the quality of the art,
Yeah.
but maybe more about how the portrait like reflects on his self-image
Yeah.
versus how he actually wants to be seen,
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just begs the question of what a political portrait, what is it truly meant to capture?
Yeah, that's a great point. The article also points out a factual inaccuracy in Trump's post.
Oh, really?
He implies that the governor was behind the portrait, but it's actually the Colorado Building Advisory Committee that handles these
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
So, yeah. This might be just like a simple oversight or maybe even a deliberate attempt to kind of frame the situation in a certain way.
Mhm.
But what really struck me immediately was the public's reaction to his demand.
Mm-hmm.
The AP reports that there was like a surge of visitors to the Capitol,
Oh, wow.
all wanting to see this supposedly, offensive portrait.
So it's like the Streisand effect almost?
It is totally like the Streisand effect. It's people are flocking to see what he wants hidden.
Yeah.
One visitor, Aaron Howe, he was a Trump voter from Wyoming.
Okay.
He thought that the portrait made Trump look a little chubby,
Uh-huh.
but admitted that it was, quote unquote, better than I could do.
Right.
And then he said that he found the artist's intent in the piece to be unclear.
I mean, that's an interesting reaction because, it shows like a blend of his personal opinion,
Yeah.
but also that there's an artistic effort involved.
Yeah.
Even a supporter,
Mm-hmm.
they can have a nuanced view of this.
For sure. And then we also have Kaylee Williamson. She's an 18-year-old Trump supporter from Arkansas.
Okay.
And she thought that the portrait looks like him
Uh-huh.
and even considered it smoother than other portraits in the building.
Interesting.
So you get this spectrum of opinions.
It really highlights just how subjective art can be,
Totally.
especially when the subject is, a really well-known figure.
Yeah.
And, we should also remember that the artist Sarah Boardman, she previously said that her goal with both the Obama and Trump portraits was to be apolitical.
Right.
And it's worth noting that she hasn't commented on Trump's, recent outburst about this.
Yeah. And finally, Governor Polis's spokesperson, Shelby Wieman, she offered a pretty dry response.
Okay.
She just expressed surprise at Trump's interest and then welcomed the increased visitors, very political.
So it's basically, Trump's very public disapproval,
Yeah.
the backstory of its creation by, his own party supporters.
Right.
His contrasting views of the same artist's work.
Yeah.
This, unexpected public curiosity that it generated.
Mm-hmm.
And the artist's prior aim for neutrality all kind of coming together.
So thinking about all of this, it makes you wonder about the power dynamics,
Totally.
When public figures and art kind of collide.
Yeah.
How much should a subject's personal feelings dictate the fate of a portrait?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And what does it say about us, the viewers, that a demand for removal actually just increases our interest?
Yeah. This prompts a final thought, I think, for all of us listening.
Okay.
How might your own political leanings, influence your interpretation of this portrait and these reactions that are surrounding it?
Yeah.
Can we ever truly separate our own biases when we view art?
Right.
Especially when it depicts someone who evokes, strong feelings in us.
Yeah.
And what does this whole incident tell us about the relationship between public image, artistic representation,
Yeah.
and ultimately the eye of the beholder, in our really polarized world?
Lots to think about.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
it's been a pleasure.
See you next time.